What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Word on Woodward presented by Raymond. Empower your purpose with Raymond. You can catch us here every Tuesday and Thursday starting at noon, wherever you're watching today. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on those live notifications so you don't ever miss a single second of the Word on Woodward. We've got another great lineup of guests for you guys today. Dan Dickerson will be joining us shortly for today's mailbag, and we've got interviews with Red Wings 50-goal scorer John Ogrodnik, Tigers pitcher Daniel Norris, Hockey Hall of Famer Larry Murphy, and Red Wings broadcaster Ken Daniel. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in my co-host, Art Ragnar. Art, we got a busy show today. Some great guests joining us.
Oh, without question. I'm really looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. I cannot believe the holidays are coming. I have all big plans for beginning next week on the show. I'm decorating the room. I'm in that holiday spirit, Daniela. And as our audience knows, you are definitely Miss Christmas. And what you've done with your new house, the decorations, outstanding. You're living up to your name. I mean, beautiful, just beautiful.
This isn't fair because I've got to buy all new decorations for a house, right? I have to buy normal decorations and Christmas decorations. So the Christmas you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess after all, look, I mean, you have given yourself two names that I know, like Miss Anchor Bay High School, like the best athlete of all time, and Miss Christmas. And so, and I know, your athletic prowess is legendary, as we all know. And I now want to see your Christmas spirit come full circle. I cannot wait to see what your beautiful home looks like on Tuesday. I expect it's going to be all kinds of lights, all kinds of everything. It's going to be beautiful.
Don't hold your breath on that one, Art, but sure. And I wonder if any of my
disappointed
listen to this show because they're probably like, what the heck is she talking about on here? But anyway, oh, wow. Now you're fixing your hair too. Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I'm going to be Daniela. I'm Daniela right now. Wait.
I've got to stop us before this gets too far. We're getting into the big three presented by Kevin.
All right, yeah. A lot of news going on.
Of today's big three are the Rule 5 draft is tonight. We've spent a lot of time here on the Word on Woodward talking about the Rule 5 draft because it really is such a unique thing to baseball. Any prospect around the league for any team that was not protected and put on the team's 40-man roster is eligible for the Rule 5 draft. And the Tigers have the third overall pick in the Rule 5 draft tonight. And they've made it seem like they may be selecting somebody. Again, you do not have to select somebody in the Rule 5 draft, but the Tigers have an open roster spot. So, Art, are you anticipating a selection tonight?
Not only am I anticipating, I am expecting the Tigers to take Omar Estevez from the Dodgers. 22,
really?
second baseman, because he's an infielder. He's a second baseman. He was a really high prospect. I believe they signed him for a lot of money out of Cuba. The Dodgers hasn't lived up to it. Only 22. They need help at second base. Omar Estevez. I want to make sure I pronounce his name correctly. I do not know if he's related to Emilio and Martin Sheen, but that would be really Charlie Sheen too. That would be kind of cool though, because as we all know, Charlie Sheen's real last name is Estevez, as is Martin Sheen's last name. And Emilio Estevez, of course, kept the name, made famous by the Mighty Ducks movie. Omar, I want to see you in the Old English D. Get it done, Al Avila.
Well, Art, we saw the trend last night on Twitter, hashtag Dahl to Detroit from our Tigers fans, David Dahl, an outfielder. We're going to talk to Dan Dickerson more about him in the mailbag, so we'll see if that might be a good fit as well. And of course, on Tuesday, we will have all of the Rule 5 info for you guys, whether the Tigers make a selection or not. So right now, we're going to move on to the second topic of today's big three, which is the NHL update. Art, we do have a bit of an update. Last night, the Board of Governors met and they were presented with a few different things. They're still working out some things in that return to play plan, and we don't have a vote yet. We're expecting that vote to be at the end of next week. But The most interesting thing, perhaps, is the division realignment. The proposed realignment came out last night. Pierre LeBrun tweeted what they had presented to the Board of Governors, they being the NHLPA. And you're looking at it right here. So the Red Wings would be in a division with Carolina, Columbus, Chicago, Florida, Minnesota, Nashville, and Tampa Bay, which is interesting, Art. And the reason I find it interesting is because I expected at least one of the two, when you look at St. Louis or Pittsburgh, to be in the same division as the Red Wings. So what do you think of this proposed realignment?
Well, I think there's two things when you really hone in on it. And we're going to talk to Larry Murphy about this as well as Ken Daniels. Red Wings are in a great division. I mean, except for Tampa Bay, all the teams are kind of in similar situations. Granted, the Red Wings maybe have the furthest to go out of all those clubs, but 56 game schedule is probably what they're going to decide on. That seems to be what Pierre LeBrun is reporting, and he's been on top of this from the beginning. You look at it. If I'm in the East, that Eastern Boston, Buffalo, New Jersey, New York, and the All-Canadian division, those divisions are stacked. 3 teams in the West didn't even make the playoffs. We're part of the group of 7. So, and what they're going to do in the first 2 rounds, they're going to play within the division. So there's going to be a lot of angry teams, I think, in the East division and in the All-Canadian division because, maybe the Red Wings division, except for Tampa, everyone's kind of struggling in Detroit somehow. I'm not saying this is going to happen. Sneaks into the playoffs, with I don't know how many points there'll be like 56 game schedule. What's that? 112 points. Detroit has 42 points somehow. It gets in, and a team with 80 points in one of those other 2 divisions I just mentioned doesn't. But you know what? Hey, it's a pandemic. Learn to live with it. We're going to have hockey. We're going to play. I like it. A lot of stuff still seems to be worked out, hub cities. I have heard some interesting things about roster expansion. They're going to expand from 23 to 26, have a 4-person taxi squad, which, the magic number is going to be 30, which I have been saying all along. You know what I mean? They're going to have to do something.
Oh, the classic.
Yeah, well, hey, that's my man Santa. He just said, "Good job, Art." But anyway, stuff is starting to happen. How long it takes to iron everything out, I'm not sure. But I'm hopeful that we start on the 13th of January, but I'm not sure.
Art, we've got a little bit of breaking news for you. The Tigers actually just made a selection in the Rule 5 draft.
My man Homer?
Akil Baddoo, 22-year-old. And he's the number 13 prospect in Minnesota's organization, according to MLB Pipeline. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, good for him. I mean, congratulations. Well, look, they were going to do it. I mean, they cleared a roster spot earlier, in the week in Los Castro. That was going to happen. Now, as the rule states, what they have to do is that, he has to stay on the major league roster for the whole year. The Tigers also had to pay, I believe, $100,000 or something too. Bring him over. If he has to stay on the major league roster. If he doesn't, he's returned, and the Tigers have to give back $50,000 or so. I don't know. There's some money in there involved, but then, hey, good. I knew it was going to be a second baseman. I just had the wrong one, and I know Omar's pretty bummed because, I gave him a call earlier, congratulating him, said it isn't, I think you're going to be a Tiger, and he's looking for a change of scenery. Dodgers are loaded, but another Minnesota Twin coming to Detroit. Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it? We'll definitely talk more about this later in the show, you guys, when Dan Dickerson joins us for the mailbag. We're going to move on to our third and final topic of the Big Three, sticking on some Tigers news. Tigers minor league affiliates, you guys. The Tigers officially invited their affiliates for their development program, which are remaining the same. Art, we're excited about this. We're going to see the Toledo Mud Hens for AAA, Erie Seawolves for AA, West Michigan Whitecaps for Advanced A, and Lakeland Flying Tigers for Single A. Now, this is exciting news because even Al Avila himself had said that these teams have been really important in the development of future Tigers players and their prospects. So it's really exciting, not only for all of the players, but all of the people that work for these organizations. We're excited to have them back and be Tigers affiliates.
Well, no question about it. I mean, the Erie Seawolves, I guess there was a little talk about that. I know that, their top club is in Toledo. I believe their second top club is now going to be in Western Michigan, West Michigan. And, Lakeland's always been the rookie league. And then Erie, I think it's great. Now, the thing I like about this is where they say, well, they've been invited. That's kind of like when I was in high school. If any young lady was, wanted to be risky enough. I just, make me feel good, invited me to the Sadie Hawkins dance or something. I was there. I accepted. You know what I mean? I think that invite, I love that term. I think that these four clubs are, boom, running, we accept your invitation. We're going. We're there. We're going to do it. And I think it's great. I like the stability too. They've worked with these cities. They've been part of the Tiger organization for a long, long time. I just think that it's, I think it's great, and I'm glad to see, because remember, we, like I said a couple of weeks ago, I love me my Seawolves, and it's good to see that they're still part of the Tiger organization.
It is, Art, and that wraps it up actually for our big three today, presented by our friends at Chevy. Chevy cares. That is why Chevy Clean dealers are committed to using enhanced vehicle cleaning measures with CDC-approved cleansers before delivering your vehicle after purchase or service. So when you're ready, you can find new roads with confidence. As we just talked about in the big three, we had a little bit of NHL news happen over the last couple of days, and Carly Johnston has a very special guest to discuss some of that news.
That's right. It's time for Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. And today I'm pleased to be joined by Red Wings alumni, good friend, John O'Gradnick. How's it going, Johnny-O?
Well, I'm bored as can be, Carly, and more than happy to be on your show. It gives me something to do for today with this virus, being stuck at home. So this is awesome for me.
That we are. And crazy world, crazy sports world, a lot of things going on. First, before I start asking you some questions, I want to talk about the jerseys behind you. You want to walk us through those? Those are really cool.
Well, for the most part, they're basically the all-star jerseys I kept over the years. I was fortunate to play in 5 all-star games. The one I'm most proud of is when I was actually elected first team left wing. That's when we had a line of Steve Yzerman, myself, and Ron Duguay, and that's the year I ended up having 55 goals. So that was nice to be voted on as first left wing all-star. The other ones I'm very proud of, don't get me wrong, but that was a scenario where each team had to be represented, and I was pretty much leading the team in goals and points, and which doesn't say much because in a way we weren't very good back then. Obviously, we were in a rebuilding situation, but it's one of those, Carly, that when you do it and you play, you don't think much of it, but after you've been out of the game for a while, you kind of appreciate it a lot more. There's no question about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're basically going to touch on everything you just brought up, but starting with everything going on with the NHL right now, we know it's swirling with rumors of a January 13th start date for the season. Fingers crossed. But that would mean a 10-day training camp. Kind of bizarre to think about. How would that affect the players?
I think each player is going to be different, when it comes to training camp. Some guys, and it's not a question of being in shape or not for the most part. They can get in shape pretty quick because, unlike in the 70s, I started in the 80s, but in the 70s, guys used to go to training camp to get in shape. They'd be overweight. And, but throughout my career, as time went on, and like I said, I was 80s and early 90s, players are coming to the training camp in pretty good shape. It comes down to timing and everything like that. And, but like I said, Carly, everybody's different. You know what? For me, it's not enough. Basically, when I played, I needed all 3 weeks of training camp, and probably a week into the season. And it wasn't that I was out of shape. The shape. I was in shape and had no problem skating or like that. But when you're a goal scorer and you're going down the wing 100, at a quick pace, and you let a slap shot go from the top of the circle. In training camp, I used to try that, and I used to fall flat in my face and shoot 10 feet wide. So for me, it was just getting my coordination back together, and getting the timing back and all that. So 10 days for me, it'll be a little short. Like I said, after that, it'll probably take me a couple weeks into the season. But like I said, every player is different, and I'm not concerned, I'm being redundant here, but I'm not concerned about the players not coming to camp in shape. It comes down to timing and seeing the ice and being able to move the puck and just getting their skills back.
Well, especially with that, through this pandemic, a lot of guys haven't had that time on the ice that they usually do. But what about also, speaking of not being able to get together as a team, what about the staff, the coaches and Iserman? Does that give them enough time, 10 days, to assess some of the new guys, especially trying to get defensive pairings and offensive lines all together?
Well, I think, going into this, I think they have a pretty good idea what their goal is. But you're right, 10 days, is it going to be enough? Because, like I said, they've got they probably have a pretty good idea how they're going to start things out. But again, if you got 3 weeks to look at players, if you have to make changes, you have to make changes. Some players, through training camp don't think, management doesn't think they're ready, and might have to spend some time in the minors. It's easier to do that. So, unfortunately, the Red Wings, they're going to probably go with what they think is right. And probably in the first week or two, you might see some movement from the minors back up to the majors or back to juniors or whatever in that time frame. So don't be surprised, again, if they use the first couple weeks of the season as part of their overall training camp. It's old famous saying from Glenn Sather years back. When he was with the Oilers, his whole idea was his regular season was a big preseason for the playoffs. So that was Glenn Sather's attitude when he was running the Edmonton Oilers.
I love that. Well, you played during an era, as we were mentioning before, where the league had fewer teams, and now with talks that the Wings could only play 8 teams in an entire season. How do you think that will play out for the Red Wings? Do you think it could benefit them or hurt them in the long run, or not really affect them at all?
I don't think it'll affect them that much. First of all, I'd have to see the teams they have to play. I mean, if they're all top 10 teams that they got to play, then it's not going to benefit them, obviously. There's got to be a pretty good mixture in there. But, if anything, it's going to probably frustrate the fans, because the fans like to see other teams come into town. There's no question about it, and see other talent come into town or watch them on TV. So I don't think the fans are going to be too happy about it, but, they're going to have to kind of live with it for the time being. As far as the players, in a way, speaking for myself, when I played, the motivation might be tough. It might get a little boring playing the same team, frequently throughout the season. It's always exciting to, travel to different cities and get an opportunity to play against other teams. And, it's kind of uplifting. So it might get a little mundane for some of the players here, just, again, playing the same 8 teams over and over again. So marketing-wise, fan-wise, I don't think it's going to be the greatest situation, but you got to make do with what you have, and hopefully hopefully it's well balanced. That again, the Red Wings aren't up against 10 top strong teams that they're going to have an opportunity there. But I guess the way they finished last year, I don't mean as an insult. Every team's going to be better ranked than they are, obviously, with the season they had last year. And I don't mean that as a negative, and I don't mean that as a joke or anything like that. They have to, like Blasco says, they have to come out fast this year, and they got to show us some improvement on a daily basis. And a lot of these guys, they were rookies last year or the year before. They're a year older now. They're a year more mature now, and it's they've got to be better and better, and really help out this team and this organization.
And with us looking at a 56-game schedule, you can't gradually get better throughout the season. I mean, you have to come out of the gates like guns a-blazing, ready for the season. Like, there's not much room for growth in this could be condensed season.
Well, you're exactly right. You've got the shorter season, and so I mean, every win's going to mean a lot more. Every loss is going to mean a lot more, and they do have to be ready. And I'll be honest with you, Carly, I'm excited. It's always nice. You look at potentially, 6 or 7 new players coming in the lineup. Nothing against the previous players, but again, being an ex-player, going in that dressing room, these players, the original, the players that are still here from last year are going to be pretty excited to see new faces there, new excitement, and hopefully, guys like Stahl, some of these older players, been in the league for a while, and Bobby Ryan, they show good leadership, if not in the dressing room, on the ice, and that's what Steve Yzerman's, when I played in his claim to fame was, he was pretty quiet in the dressing room, didn't say much, and he just, he led by example on the ice, and I think that some of these players, especially these younger players, see these older players come in, and if they start doing that, I think it's going to be, it's going to be very uplifting, for the younger players, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see the change, and I'm hoping, like you are and everybody else, that they get off to a great start, and they're going to be enjoyable to watch. And Because I'm telling you, once you lose, you got to get out of that rut, and now's the time that hopefully, again, with the additional players and the short season, let's see if they can get out of that rut and get the ball rolling. Because once you start winning, it's a nice rut to be in. Also,
I have to ask you, who's going to be the
Yes.
next 50 goal scorer on the Red Wings team? Who's going to be the first to reach it?
Oh, I got to say, Mantha. I mean, this guy's got a skill level. He's got a shot. You know what? He's a big guy. He's a strong guy. He's got a quick release, moves the puck well. And I thought last season he was better than the season before, and hopefully he keeps progressing. And he gets out there in the power play. I mean, I can see a guy there. He's getting 50. He's just got to let it go. And I like the fact that they got him at the top of the circle on the point on the power play, because you got to take advantage of that shot. And but he's got a skill level, and his his hand-eye coordination is unbelievable. He's a hell of a golfer. And, changing the subject real quick, it's also going to be tough for the players too, Carly, because I'm telling you, when they don't have fans to play in front of also, I mean, that makes it tough also. It's not a pleasant situation. And I've always said this, especially in the playoffs, during the regular season, it's so long and it's a grind. You're drinking a lot of coffee and you're trying to get up for the games, but once the playoffs start, and unfortunately I wasn't here so much with the Red Wings, but in Madison Square Gardens, I was with the Rangers. I mean, you didn't need any coffee. I mean, the adrenaline and just the fans and the excitement and all that, and I'm talking playoff hockey, but even regular season hockey, the players like the fans out there because they can motivate them. There's no question about it.
It brings more pizzazz to the game, if you will. For lack of a better word, I couldn't figure out what I was trying to say there, but pizzazz will have to do for now. But it is definitely an exciting time to be a Detroit sports fan. I mean, anything can happen right now, really. I mean, you look at the Lions, you look at the Tigers, you never know. So I'm very excited for the Red Wings, and I got very excited hearing you talk Red Wings hockey with me. It gets me excited. Hopefully, this January 13th start date will happen. Johnny, I can't thank you enough for joining me. It's been a pleasure getting to talk with you again and catching up with Carly, presented by Meyer.
Well, you're quite welcome. I'm more than happy to be here, Carly. Thank you.
Hope to see you soon. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Carly. And I'm totally with you on the energy. John Ogrodnik definitely got us excited for hockey season, which will hopefully be starting on January 13th. Right now, we're going to get into the mailbag delivered to you by Little Caesars. And you guys, I know I promised you Dan Dickerson today, but something came up for him. He is unable to join us. So lucky for you, you get to stare at Art and I for a little bit longer. And we wish Dan the best. We hope everything's okay. But
all right. I can't wait. I'm ready.
It's a good alternative.
Did you notice? You notice my man Vinny Van Gogh is making an appearance today? He hasn't been up too much.
You put him right behind you. That was not smart.
I know. Well, he inspires me. He talks to me.
Oh, good.
He doesn't hear so well, but he definitely can speak.
Well, I hope he's inspired you for today's mailbag, Art. Let's get to our first question.
Great artist. One of my all-time favorites.
All right. Aaron I'm sorry, I'm reading you the wrong question. Ryan from Clio asks, rumors have Vegas shopping Max Pacioretty, talented player, good locker room guy, and they have a first round pick plus two second round picks next year. Should the Wings go after him, Art?
Well, my history with Max Pacioretty goes back to his days at the University of Michigan. He played 1 year for Michigan as a freshman. In 37 games, he had 15 goals, 24 assists. He had 39 points. And the thing I remember about Max, I used to do a lot of CCHA games. Michigan was in the old Central Collegiate Hockey Association back then, and for Comcast. And I do a big half-hour pregame show. And the little locker room that I use was right next to the Michigan locker room. If anyone's familiar with Yost Ice Arena, the Wolverines actually, they enter behind a net that that's their net for 2 periods, closest to their bench. And there's a big stairway. So they would all have to come down. And I was done with my show, and I'd always watch Michigan kind of go out onto the ice. And so they go out onto the ice. They're playing Notre Dame. And it's the first period. It's very early in the season. And this freshman named Max Pacioretty takes the puck at the Michigan blue line, circles around, and then heads down ice, down on the left wing, gets gets just past the blue line and fires the puck. And I mean, fires the puck. He doesn't score, but it clangs. I mean, the whole, they heard it in Toledo. I mean, it just clanged off the crossbar. And I was standing there. I'm standing right behind the net, the Michigan net. So I watch it. The play is in front of me. And I heard it, and I looked at the guard, the security guy from Yost Ice Arena, real nice guy. I can't remember his name now. I wish I could. And I said to him, what the bleep is this kid doing at Michigan? Because you could tell. I mean, from just that shot was NHL caliber right then, and he's all of, 18 years old or something. I mean, he was just outstanding. I'm surprised in 37 games he only scored 15 goals, but Red's probably not good. Freshman has to earn it and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, he had 39 points in 37 games too. So he's just a wonderful player. Do I think the Red Wings are going to go after him? That's a really, really interesting. He's signed. He has a long-term deal, and I think the term and the money probably where the Red Wings are at right now. Steve's not going to do it. Although if he did do it, he would, let's face it, that Tatar trade looks better and better and better. A first, second, and third round pick, for the Red Wings. And I'm glad to see Tomas Tatar flourishing with the Montreal Canadiens. He's a great kid. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if you're going to take on Max Pacioretty's contract in his term, and I mean, he would help the Red Wings, no question about it. The guy's a goal scorer. He's a gifted goal scorer. You would have to get that number one pick. I mean, that's what we're talking about. I mean, if you're going to get somebody like that, if you're going to take on a long term, if this was an expiring contract like Mark Stahl's is, I think Detroit would be right in the mix because they can afford it, where their cap numbers are. I think Pacioretty's term, unfortunately, I don't think that the Red Wings will do it. They would definitely have to get a number one. Maybe Steve asked for a number one, number two. Maybe he does it at that point. Maybe he can move him. But I think Max Pacioretty, even at the trade deadline, depending what kind of seasons he's having, I don't know if you could move him just because now, especially in the pandemic, the NHL is kind of cost conscious. I don't know if he would be movable, but he's a great player. I mean, I'd love to see it. I just don't think it's going to happen.
All right, Art, let me ask you this then, because we've talked a lot about this on the show, that you do believe Steve might have another move in him before the season starts, but it's going to be something like that Stahl deal. If it's not Max Pacioretty, if you think his contract is too big, do you have any players in mind that if you were the general manager, you would go after?
Well, everyone keeps hearing about Tampa Bay, that Steve's going to go down to his team at Tampa Bay. Does he take a Tyler Johnson, Alex Killorn, somebody around that, I think both of those guys have terms, so he definitely would go after a draft choice too. I think he's going to do it, but I think where they're at right now, and I don't really have inside information. I mean, when Steve and I talk, we just talk about life. We really don't talk too much about hockey. Yeah, we philosophize with each other. So I don't have any inside information. But what I would say, I think at this point, he probably wants to see exactly what he has when the Red Wings get together. They're starting to come back to Detroit. The ice is, I guess it's in the Belfour Center. I mean, I know it is. So some of the guys are starting, they've been working out on their own for months, as we know. I think at this point, he wants to see where they're at, what he has. Maybe Michael Rasmussen comes back from Austria and is like, my gosh, here's our third line center. It's right here. He's right here. Zadina, definitely second line. I mean, it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. The Swedish guys, they're not coming back. But everybody else, Hronik's already on the team. He could be, their top defenseman. So I think he wants to see what he has, because where the Red Wings are at in the cap, and so many teams are up at that ceiling, I think he can pick and choose. I don't think he's in any rush to make another move. But if he does make a move, it'll be based on what he sees on the Red Wings on the ice, and it'll be based on, the best deal, obviously, that he can make. And the longer teams are they're at that ceiling and they're busting out, and they can't, they got to come down, it could work out to the Red Wings' benefit. I mean, the Stahl deal's great. It's great. Mark Stahl's not a bad player. It's going to help on that penalty kill. and they're going to move him at the deadline. I've convinced myself of that, and plus they already have a second-round pick, so they're going to get another pick for Mark Stahl.
I'm going to simplify that question a little bit for you, so you have to simplify the answer, okay?
Oh, well, that'll be tough.
Yeah, I know. I'm just thought I'd try.
Right.
Okay. So
I'm ready, though.
The roster that we see right now, which obviously there is no specifically set roster, but we have a good idea of what that roster is going to look like. Is that the roster that we're going to see come puck drop, which could be January 13th?
I'm under the impression that the first week or week and a half, the first 10 days of training camp are going to be huge. If someone I love what Steve said earlier this year, where he said, wouldn't it be great if one of these young guys does take, the old bull by the horns and makes this club? So I think, because he has a great eye for talent, and most of the guys in the Red Wings system do, if they see somebody really accelerate, maybe this is the roster. Really, maybe it's like, okay, hey, again, I'm obsessed with Michael Rasmussen, but it's Rasmussen's time. Boom, it's Rasmussen's time. It's Giovanni Smith's time. It's their time. Boom, we're gonna get it. Chase Pearson comes out of nowhere, or somebody like that. Whatever, whomever. Boom, boom, boom. It's their time. I don't think he makes a move, but if they're looking and saying, I may need a little seasoning, he's going to be on, the taxi squad, or he'll be one of the. We're going to expand the roster to 26. He'll be number 26 of the roster. If it's something like that, maybe then he does make a move, depending on what the deal is, who the player he's going to have, whose contract he's going to have to take on, the term of that player, and also if he thinks that, what kind of draft pick. If I'm Steve, I'm holding out for at least a second rounder, if not a first, depending on the player's term. If it's long term, I go for a first. If it's not, I'll take a second in that player and then try to move him at the deadline as well.
Well, maybe you and Steve should start talking hockey, Art. I think you have some pretty good insight.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure if he's watching this because he's obsessed with the show, I'm sure he's already thrown his boot at his laptop. Don't bust it, Steve. It's company issued. They'll be upset with you.
All right, Art, put your baseball cap on for this next question. And you talked about being obsessed with Michael Rasmussen. We're going to talk about, oh, wow, you really had one. We're going to talk about another player.
I've got the United States of America.
I know the story. Another player that you're a little bit obsessed with, okay, for this next question. Brent from Grand Rapids asks, Baseball America recently released their prospect rankings where they placed Skubal ahead of your beloved Casey Mize. Does this show the strength of the Tigers system or based on how their debut seasons went?
Well, first of all, you're going to have to apologize to Casey because he heard that. Way to go, Danielle. I'm going to have to talk this guy off the Ambassador Bridge. All kidding aside, I would say I think some of it is obviously based on what Skubal did this year in the major leagues. I mean, he was pretty impressive. He has an out pitch, he has a strikeout pitch. AJ Hinch alluded to it on the last show. That high fastball, that rising fastball. Guys can't hit. But I wouldn't read a whole lot into that, because I guess if you still look at what the scuttlebutt is, I think everybody knows that Mize is he's a 1 or 2 guy. He could be an ace of the staff. And, and Skubal's left-handed, and, everybody is in love with left-handed pitching. So, I think that this is a good thing for the Tigers to have. Those guys are really tight with one another. They're really close friends, but they're also in competition with each other, like a friendly kind of competition. And look, if you add Faedo and Manny to the mix and they think that they're going to be the Braves of yesteryear, that starting staff, this is the kind of competition that you want. That's exactly what you want. So, look, I have all the faith in Arthur. I have all the faith in you, Arthur. All the faith in you. Love this guy. But I will say that, he struggled. I guess I read an interview in the Tiger Clip, so I'm not exactly sure, who wrote it. I wish I could give them credit, but, he was really, look, Casey knows what he needs to do. You know, it was a little tough. You know, it was a learning experience for him. I think with Skubal, because he's a fastball pitcher and he's also left-handed, but I do think that, you know, in his strikeout ratio, I mean, what do you have, like 220 strikeouts in like 6 innings or something in minor league ball? It wasn't quite that extraordinary, but it was extraordinary. I think not that it's easier for him, but, you know, Casey has an array of pitches that have to be working. He likes to mix it up and all that kind of stuff. Skubal's more of a thrower. I mean, just a hard, you know, give me the ball and I'm going to throw it. I think I even asked him this question, 400 miles an hour. Boom, try to hit it. So, you know, and people can't, people can't. So I just think that Casey has a little more figuring out to do. That's why I'm really excited about Chris Fetter, not because he played for the Michigan Wolverines and was, you know, and got them to the, you know, the College World Series and had several pitchers drafted into the major leagues. But I'm really eager to see what he does with this pitching staff. I'll tell you, after talking to AJ Hinch the other day, I could not be more enthused about this Tiger team just to see what this coaching staff does with this young talent. And I really think that not Skubal, Mize, Manning, Faedo, the big four, I think that those guys are all going to benefit from Chris Fetter. So again, hey, you know, it's just rankings, you know, but good for Skubal. Casey has something to work on. He has a goal to shoot for. Everything's going to be fine.
All right. I think the bottom line is that Skubal did pitch better in his outings last season than Casey Mize did. And that's not to say it won't be different in the future. And like you said, it's a good problem, if you even want to call it a problem, for the Tigers to have.
Right. Remember, I don't know what game it was, but remember where Mize had a no-hitter going into the 6th inning and he had struck out a lot of guys? I mean, it's there. We've seen it. The problem is that he just for whatever reason, he wasn't developing the consistency in his pitches from start to start. You know, this pitch, one pitch totally abandoned him, out of his arsenal that he couldn't throw. Well, he's a young guy. He probably has confidence in that pitch. That's probably a pitch he's used his whole life and he's gotten guys out with, and it's just not happening today. Well, then you go down from being like a 4-pitch guy to a 3-pitch guy. And the best pitch that I've thrown today is my slider or my changeup. And guess what? This entire freaking team, that's the pitch that they all hit. You know what I mean? So I just think that, it was a learning experience for him. I have utmost confidence in Casey Mize as well as Tarek Skubal. I love Skubal.
You like my cues today, Art? I'm just outright.
I do. Hey,
They're right there. Okay. Anyway, we're talking about players you're obsessed with. We've touched on 2 already. So why don't we make it a 3rd?
Okay.
Spencer Torkelson, Art. He's obviously one of the Tigers' top prospects as well. In your mind, would he be more like a top prospect? Would you put him above Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize or below? I'm just wondering.
I look at it this way. I mean, I guess they do these rankings based on major league readiness. Who they think is more ready or, to be a major leaguer. But I would like to separate pitchers and everyday players. I think they should be ranked separately because I think pitching is a lot different and it's a lot tougher, I think, to, Fernando Valenzuela or Vita Blue. I know I'm dating myself. I mean, these guys are once in a blue moon. See, Vita, that's for you, my friend. But, I mean, for that to happen, I think it's difficult. I really think it's difficult. Pitching takes a little bit more time. The torque, again, I mean, I can't wait to see what this coaching staff does with him. I think that there's 2 guys that are on on the fast track to Detroit. One of them, of course, is Riley Green, and the other one is Torkelson. Look, I mean, how can you not be? Look, I mean, we've had a few dark, seriously though. I mean, there's some talent on this team. I mean, that's pretty exciting. I don't expect the Tigers to be world beaters next season. No one does. But what I do, that 58 game schedule for a team that finished 9 games under 500 at the end, I think was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, because you know why? Because there was potential. There was hope. And I think that the torque is on a fast track. Now, I don't know if this 3rd thing's going to work out. I don't know if he's eventually going to be at 1st and Jamer's going to go back to 3rd because Jamer proved he's a player. I mean, good things are happening in Detroit. good things are happening in Detroit, from, the renaissance of the city all the way down. The sports teams are starting to get together. And then, maybe the Lions will catch, a whiff of success there, 1 decade or not. Had to say that, Daniela.
Yeah, whatever. And I asked you that question because baseball.
You dissed my man Casey. I had to bring up the Lions.
Well, I was going to tell you that Spencer Torkelson is actually rated the Tigers' #1 prospect by Baseball America. So I was just wondering what you thought. Yeah, so Torque is #1.
Well, again, he's the first pick overall, as was Casey Mize, I think. But yeah, I guess look at it this way. He should be, right?
Right.
Shouldn't the #1 overall pick in the baseball draft last year, who everybody raved about, he was going to break Barry Bonds' collegiate home run record at Arizona State, or the Arizona State record. Everybody knows year in and year out, Arizona State produces a lot of major league talent. So, yeah, I'm not surprised by that. It should be that. What that does is it reinforces that the Tigers and their minor league system, they've rebuilt the minor league system. I wasn't joking with AJ Hinch when I said I kind of forgot the Tigers had a minor league system there for a while, and then it was like, oh, wow, we got to rate them. I guess, well, we'll rate them dead last. And, they've moved up, they're in the top 5, top 2, even maybe top 1. So, hey, I mean, this is good. Everything you're asking me is great. I mean, these are problems that you want to have. Should Torkelson be #1 or should Riley Green be #1? Well, you're talking about premium talent. You're talking about young elite talent. I'm happy.
You ready to hit the reset button, Art? Because we're done with the mailbag for now.
Oh,
you reset
really?
For our next segment, Art. Oh, I lied. We have one more question. Reset for the next question.
There we go. I thought we did.
Well, we do, but you just talked too long, so I forgot that I didn't ask it to you yet. Anyway. Jim from New Buffalo asks, since last week you covered you covered holiday gifts. What gift should we get Jeff Blashill for his birthday today? Happy birthday, Jeff Blashill. First of all, what did you mail him?
Well, it was too large what I mailed him, so it's just going to have to work itself out at training camp. Besides, first of all, happy birthday, Jeff. Many happy returns, good health throughout the year, all those things, because, he's a tip-top guy, great human being, known Jeff a long time, and I really have utmost respect for him. But if I could, what I would do is that I would send him or make it an easy decision for a second line center. I know I'm obsessed with that position, but if they combine a guy who can be a second line center and you don't have to break Larkin, Mantha, and Bertuzzi up, a guy that can distribute the puck, makes Zadina better than whomever the other winger is. And there's several candidates. Let's just say Bobby Ryan. If you can get a second line center, that makes the Red Wings problems less. And that's what I would wish him for his birthday. I would get him a bona fide second line center. Like, first practice, they get the lines together. Blashill's out there, blowing the whistle, whatever the coach is doing, gets the whiteboard and, doing all this stuff. And then after, he's not going to tell us. He's not going to tell us that day. But if he walks up to Steve and says, so-and-so, hey, my birthday gift has been answered. We've got a second line center. Boom. That's what I would like to see.
All right, so you're getting him a second line center. I'm going to get him a Little Caesars hot and ready pepperoni cheeser because we can get that delivered to him, Art. Just like
really? Whoa. You know what? And let's face it, Blash loves his Little Caesars. You go into his office. He's got pizza boxes all over the place. He eats one pizza. He just
Art is going to start advertising for Little Caesars, you guys. But yes, we're going to send Blash a hot and ready pepperoni cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, a toasted Parmesan, and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. And now, you guys, of course, we're going to bring in Carly Johnston for this one and get into Bet You Didn't Know, presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. Carly, Art's giving Flash a second line center. Hopefully, that's a big hopefully. I'm giving him a pizza. What are you gonna give Flash for his birthday?
I don't know. I want Flash to write a book. Art and you, Daniela, know he's one of the most like inspirational people. Whenever he opens his mouth, I'm like, this is gold. Whatever he says. So I'd give him a pen and a paper. Maybe it's more of a gift for myself than it is for him. But
you know what? I have a title for his book.
Oh, geez.
It should be called "I Say This Lots."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I say this lots. I think that should be the title of his book.
Day to day. Is that what he says?
Yeah.
Day to day or something.
Day to day, I say this lots. We need to be better.
We need to be better. Trust the process. What is the other one? Day to day. Something like that.
Remember, he was saying process so much. A couple of years ago, I asked Jimmy Howard in the Scrum Live. I asked him, I go, Jimmy, I go, forgive me. I go, but did you guys follow the process tonight? And he started to answer, and then he started to laugh and said, geez, Art, that was a good one. He says it so much. You know, but process has been used. I say this lots, people would look at. Wow, what kind of book is this? I say this lots.
When he speaks, people listen. I'm telling you, he's a very well-spoken person, and he's hilarious. Side note, you don't really think about. He's very
Jeff
funny.
Is tip-top.
Yeah.
Tip-top.
Well, he does.
He's a good one.
I'd be reading it. I think we all would read it. I think a lot of Red Wings fans would read it. But I'm excited for today's bet. You didn't know, you guys, because I'm running the show today. I don't have to participate, which you know is much better for me. My track record is not very good. But in honor of Hall of Famer Larry Murphy joining us later, we are going to have some questions that relate to Hall of Fame defenders for both the Red Wings and the Tigers. And to do this, you're each going to get a question. Art's going to go first, and I'm going to ask him the first question. If he gets it right, that's a point for him. If he gets it wrong, I'm going to pitch the question to Carly, and she has a chance to answer it. And then we'll go to question 2. Carly answers first. She gets it wrong. Art gets the chance to answer. And if you guys are tied, well, I'm going to ask you the third anyway, even if someone's winning, because it's fun. It's a good question. It could be used as a tiebreaker if we need it. Okay? Got it?
I have doubt that we'll need it, but okay.
Yeah. You know what? Let's just roll with it, all right?
You might be at both at 0. Who knows?
Yeah, we could be. I'm gonna have a little rocket fuel for this thing.
Thanks.
Oh man,
Cheers.
what's in that? All right, here we go. Question 1. Art, this one is for you. The Baseball Hall of Fame has 22 players who played for the Tigers. How many won a Gold Glove Award? Is it 2, 8, or 5?
Wow, 2, 8, or 5. Well, I think it's got to be more than 2. I am probably, in honor of Hank Greenberg, I'll say 5.
All right, you are wrong. I wish I had a buzzer. The answer is 2. It's Alan Trammell and Al Kaline.
Oh, wait. I get the option. The answer's 2.
I'm being a bit. All right, Carly gets the point. That was my plan all along.
That's a crime. You know what? That's a joke.
No, I'm nulling it. I'm nullifying it, Art. It's still 0. It's my fault. I can't even win trivia when I'm hosting it. Dang it. Anyway, I'll give you the answer for this one, okay? The Tigers have had a number of great defenders, but the Gold Glove only started in 1957. If Lou gets into the Hall of Fame, it'll be 3 Tigers.
Okay.
You know, I know this segment usually falls off the rails, but I did not think it was going to fall off the rails within the first minute.
Yeah, the first question I asked. That's all right.
Whoa.
We'll give her redeem herself. Wait, so now I get a question.
You got it wrong anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Carly has a question now. What is your question, Carly?
No, I'm saying I think I get the question now, right?
You do get the answer.
Right,
Yes.
you do.
All right, ready? Question 2. This one's for Carly. The Red Wings have 83 people in the Hockey Hall of Fame. How many are defensemen? Is it 22, 18, or 9?
I really want to say 18. I was just looking this up too. I'm gonna go B. I know Art knows the answer.
No, Carly is right. Okay, so we get no chance at that second question.
Actually.
Larry Murphy was inducted in 2004, and his teammate Nick Lidstrom was the latest in 2015. So yes, 18 of them are defensemen.
Wow.
And Art, we'll give you a chance to tie it up. If you do tie it up, we're ending it in a tie. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
And yeah, all right, here we go. Question 3. How many Hall of Famers did Larry Murphy play with in Detroit in 1997? Is it 6, 3, or 5?
Not counting Larry.
And not counting Larry. I'm looking at all of them that we listed.
All right. That's very important. Okay, let's see. So how many Hall of Famers at that time? Okay, you've got Stevie, you got Sergey, you got Brendan.
All right, you don't get to like photographic memory of the entire 97.
Okay, what are my choices again?
6, 3, 5.
I'm going to say 6.
And you're correct. So we are ending this one in a tie. It is Brendan Shanahan, Sergei Fedorov, Fetisov. I can never say his first name, Art, so pronounce it for me. Fetisov, Igor Larionov, Nicholas Lidstrom, and Steve Yzerman. And they were also coached by Hall of Famer Scotty Bowman.
Wow, that I can go on about that team forever. I mean, they first cup winning team in 42 years. I mean, it was just great. Crushing the Legion of Doom. East Coast bias just being, just put a zipper on it. East Coast. The Red Wings were here. Great things. That was a great team. Watching them come together too as an organization, because they were good for a long time. That 89 draft, Steve was obviously already here. Watching them come together, and then, the heartache and disappointment of losing like they had, and then being able to win it when everybody counted them out. Everyone was questioning, Steve's ability as a captain. Detroit's the greatest team that's never going to win anything. And boom, boom, boom. And then they begin in 97. And then obviously, 12 years later, they have 4 cups. So, and back to back, that is great. And they should have, in my book, they should have won it again in 2009. They should have had back-to-back in 97, 98, and 08 and 09. But that'll be for another day, because I'm still steamed about that. So schedule was not kind to the Red Wings in 2009.
This is like one of those long, you remember when you took tests as a kid and it was like, most of it was Scantron, and then there were some questions where you had to do like a long form answer? I remember Scantron. Long form answering like
I think
answer, you know what I mean? Like,
I think standardized testing was a lot different for me. It was just usually, if it was a number two pencil and a little sheet where you had to color in the little oval, kind of like when you vote today. Depending on your ballot. Yeah. But I didn't punch anything, or I didn't have a laptop. I didn't have a computer. I had to use my own noggin. I had to go to a place called the library where they actually had books that I had to crack open.
Encyclopedias. Did they have calculators back then? I'm curious.
Well, you know what? When I was in high school, seriously, we had the physics teacher. He must have got a cut on calculators. Calculators were just. I'm talking like 9th, 10th grade. Calculators were just starting to come. And, and like most things back then, calculator was like this big, I mean, they weren't those real small things. I mean, they all seemed to be quite large back then. And, and this one guy, I mean, I had to tell him, I'm not going to say his name, but I had to say, Mr. Who? Well, this, God, I don't even know if I'd be alive today if I had a phone back when I was a teenager.
I got my phone fixed if you guys couldn't tell.
Yeah, well, good. How is your thumb doing?
Good. My thumbs are good. I
swear to God, I thought you broke your thumb. But this guy used to try to sell me a calculator. He'd see me in a hall and he'd go, Regner, hey, do you want to, you need a calculator? And it's like, buddy, I'm in senior math. We're learning how to multiply. We're learning fractions. I don't need a calculator. Math was not my best subject. But he kept trying to sell me a calculator. And that was the big thing. Everybody in school wanted a calculator.
Yeah, I've heard it before.
All right. Art saw my signal. That does it for Bet You Didn't Know today, you guys. Bet You Didn't Know is presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. Download the app and follow PointsBet USA on social media for more information. All right, Carly, it is social media time. And now that you have healthy thumbs and a fixed phone, I'm sure this was a lot easier for you.
It was. It really, truly was a lot easier. But now that it was easier, I have two great posts that I'd like to share. And sorry to cut you off, Art. I'm sure that story was great. We'll revisit it later and let's socialize. Okay, so this is what I have for you guys right now. First up is the Tigers Twitter that has been booming lately with all the greatest and latest trends. So here we have my awesome graphic guy, Al, who was screen recording for this. So it said, Tigers fans, tap here. And it said, we love you. And then Yankees fans, tap here. And it says, someone loves you. Like, right? I mean, why would you be a Yankees fan? But why would you be following the Tigers if you were? Pretty funny. Made me laugh. And then moving on to the Detroit Red Wings, we had Luke Glendening and Kirk Maltby get together to talk a little bit of Chell. And Luke talked about how he, Riley Sheahan, and Tomas Tatar all had really cool sellies that they actually picked up from NHL 94. Let's check it out.
Me and Riley and Thomas Tatar, we always used to think it was funny, the celebration, the two hand, the stick over the head. So whenever we would win, we started it in Grand Rapids, and when we would win, we would do that. And then it kind of carried over to Detroit. So when we were in Detroit, we would do it as well. I still do it every once in a while, but not as many guys recognize it. Everyone's so young now. They don't remember that. So it's not as fun just to do by myself.
Couple takeaways from that video. Love hearing those two guys laugh. Love seeing Luke Glendening smile without the tooth. Talk about a hockey guy. And miss seeing Riley Sheahan and Tomas Tatar in Red Wings sweaters. But happy they're doing well in the league. So until we reconnect at the end of the show, guys, make sure you're sending in your questions and your comments with the hashtag #TheWordOnWoodward, or head over to my Instagram story and submit your questions there.
Carly, I'm glad you mentioned Luke Glendening's tooth, because I was watching that video and I was thinking to myself, when did he lose a tooth? Has that always been that way?
Like a month ago, I guess.
Oh, no.
Was out, or Dan was out shooting equipment. I think they were working out, and I can't remember how he lost it, but he lost it like recently.
Well, now he looks like a real hockey guy. I think he's going to play even better this season.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Well, thank you, Carly. We'll talk to you later in the show. As she said, you guys make sure you are sending in your questions using the hashtag #WordOnWoodward. Wherever you're watching, Carly will find them and we'll get to them later in the show. We still have some great guests coming up for you guys. We'll talk some Tigers baseball with pitcher Daniel Norris. And later in the show, Art will catch up with Ken Daniels, your Red Wings play-by-play announcer. But for now, we're going to get into downtown Hockey Town, presented by Labatt Blue Light. And today's guest, we talked about him already in our Bet You Didn't Know segment. Larry Murphy, Hall of Fame defenseman. Larry, thank you so much for taking the time to join us again today. I think you were listening to that segment we had on trivia. 6 Hall of Famers on that 97 team, 7 including yourself. That's pretty awesome. And Art did get that question right. I thought he might get it wrong, but he got it right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I heard Art talking about visiting the library. Who is he kidding? He never opened the book.
Yeah, he didn't go to the library.
Yeah, come on, Art. But anyways, it was 7 Hall of Famers in 97. I mean, that was through the 90s and the 2000s. And the Wings are fortunate enough to have quite a veteran squad and quite a few guys that actually ended up, as you point out, Danielle, in the Hall of Fame. So, yeah, it's I've said it a million times. I got to Detroit at the right time and joined the right group of guys.
That you did. And we're looking forward to this next group of Red Wings, Larry, and the latest NHL news. We found out what the division realignments might look like. They're still trying to work everything out when it comes to Hub City's safety protocols, traveling, everything like that. But we do know that the Board of Governors have division realignment in front of them. And the Red Wings division consists of Carolina, Columbus, Detroit, Chicago, Florida, Minnesota, Nashville, and Tampa Bay. Now, I pointed this out earlier when we talked about it in the Big Three, that I thought the division the Red Wings were in would include at least Pittsburgh or St. Louis, if not both. We didn't get either of them. What do you think about that division, Larry, if in fact that is what we see come start?
Well, it's actually, I think it's a favorable division for the Wings. I wouldn't say it's definitely not the deepest division by any means. I mean, with the exclusion of Tampa Bay, of course, winning the Stanley Cup, I think it gives them the best possible chance of making the playoffs. And it was very difficult for the league to try to figure out geographically. That's basically how they decided they were going to make the divisions. But for the Wings, I mean, the bigger picture, of course, is themselves. They're a team that's trying to pick themselves off the ground. So this is it's I think it's a positive, a plus. It could mean more wins for them. It means they can stay in playoff contention longer, and hopefully that they do make the playoffs. Of course, that's a bit of a stretch coming from where season they had last, but I think the divisional lineup is very favorable for them. And if it ends up where the schedule is very heavily division, if you just play division teams, which very well could be the case, I mean, it gives the Wings a good chance to come out with a real strong season.
Larry, when I look at this division, I really look at maybe the number of games. I mean, the Red Wings are going to play. Everyone's thinking it's going to be like 56 games, which is like 26 games less than I think a regular season. If my mathematics, from all that book learning I did when I was younger, I think it's 26 games.
Get out the calculator.
But you played in shortened you played in shortened seasons. I mean, from a player's perspective, is 56 games a legitimate season in your mind? And should the Red Wings approach it that way and think we've got as good a chance as anybody?
Well, the big thing, and it's the same for all the teams in this situation, is you got to come out of the gate quick. I mean, if you fall to the first 10 games, then boy, it's a tall order to get yourself back in a playoff position. So the games just become that much more important. Everybody's in the same boat. Yeah, I played in the 48 game season. I'd say, it's legitimate. It's a bit different. It turns into more of a sprint than a long drawn out sort of season. But yeah, I mean, this is the world we live in. So you take the best of all worlds. And I mean, all right, we're going to be fortunate if we have a 56 game season. We got to be ready for a potential of a 48. I mean, there's just so many, I'm sure you've touched on it, Art. There's so many issues that still have to be resolved. And of course, the COVID numbers are continuously heading north. So they need contingency plans if things blow up, so to speak, in terms of positive tests among players. I mean, they go back to the bubble. I mean, that's a discussion for another day. But heading back to that initial question, the key for every team is get out of that gate quick. It's going to be a short training camp. There's not going to be any preseason games. And so for Jeff Blashill and his players, he's ready right now for camp, and he wants this team. And I think, just going off on a bit of a tangent, I think for the Wings, it increases their possibility, their chances of making the playoffs by a shorter season.
I agree with you, Larry. And I know Carly and Johnny O talked about this earlier in the show, and you briefly mentioned it, the shorter training camp. It's looking like it's going to be a 10-day training camp, but no preseason would really be the biggest thing that would be a huge difference compared to a normal season. How will that impact the team? I guess as a player, how much does preseason actually prepare you?
Well, for the Wings, it would have been nice because they have gone with the 6 other teams that didn't play after the COVID suspension. I mean, it's tough. They've been skating, been working hard, but there's no replacement for actual play, actual competition. So it's going to be some unknowns. You want guys to come out and be hot. You want guys like Anthony Mantha to light it up from day number one. But it's going to be a tall order for the Wings. Jeff Blashill is going to do what he can to increase the intensity, increase the competitiveness in the camp, in terms of inter squad games. I'm guarantee you that's going to be part of the formula, is that they're going to set up some sort of tournament, some sort of play where they're going to try to initiate intensity. And that's going to, because you coming out of the gate, boy, you got to be ready because it's ramped up. A regular season NHL game, boy, it's just ramped up from anything that you see normally in training camp.
Larry, you bring up an interesting point about maybe 10 days, as Daniela said, about training camp. Now, we've heard, and I haven't heard anything to the contrary, that it does appear that the 7 non-playoff teams are probably going to get maybe, I think they would like a full week, but they would like maybe, go ahead, Daniela.
We've got a little bit of breaking news. It's happened while we were on the air. Darren Dreger is reporting that the teams that did not get into the return to play, the non-playoff teams, will get a extra 3 days, 2 days. December 31st is when they will start. And then the other teams will report on January 3rd. So Art, continue with your question now that we do know that.
All right. I mean, what's 3 days going to do, Larry? I mean, is that enough, or is that just, just throwing these guys a bone who really got nothing since March?
Well, at one point they were hoping for 2 weeks of camp, early camp, but that, of course, that's long gone, and now it's just going to be a matter of a couple of days if they're fortunate. I mean, that's still not a guarantee, because they're going to want to get going as fast as they can. They because they're not playing in a bubble, they anticipate that they're going to have problems with COVID. They might have to reschedule games, and they need some sort of pad, some date pad in the schedule where they can do that. But boy, as these dates squish down, and we know that this basically they've got to be completed before the Olympics start in mid-July. So I mean, we're a scary situation here, and those 3 days could even go away. It could turn out that they don't get anything. So it's an unfortunate situation, but hey, they've got to deal with it, and it's not something that they can overcome. It's not ideal, but yeah, it looks like they do get the 3, but they're going to have to be ready not to get any, just because of the logistic problems of getting things going in time for this season. That, once they decide they're going to play, I mean, there are a lot of things that have to happen in order before they can even show up to camp for day number 1. So as these dates are ticking away and they haven't resolved the situation, boy, those 3 days themselves are in danger of going away.
Larry, I want to ask a quick follow-up. Thank you, Daniela, about this. Is that what we've heard about is that most likely it's going to go to a baseball type of schedule where, let's say, if these divisions hold true, the Blackhawks will come in and play a 2 or 3 game series. Again, from a player perspective, I mean, you're used to this during playoffs, obviously, but do you like that? I mean, if Chicago comes in for 3 games, it would have to be 3 games in 4 nights, I would imagine. But, building up rivalries, could we see some rough and tumble, a little bit nasty hockey going on with the way this schedule could be played out?
Yeah, I don't like it ideal, but it might be a necessity. And yes, that's one of the positive things about it. You can really get a real intense series going, especially if game 1 turns out to be a real intense type of hockey. It can roll over into 2 and 3. So yeah, that's the upside. And that's they can do that. If there's not going to be fans in the building, then that makes more sense. It cuts travel costs down. It makes it safer. The less the players have to travel, the safer it's going to be, the less chance that they can get the virus. So yes, that makes sense doing that. I don't think it's ideal. There's some positive sides to it. I personally am not a big fan of that. I like back-to-back. I like home and home. But to have 3 games in a row in one building, hey, it's the world we live in, and we're going to make the best of it. And the teams that get, if they can get the jump, say it's, as you say, a 3 game series, get the jump on game 1, get some momentum. Well, that could roll into 2 and 3, and then you come out of that match with 6 points. So yeah, it's interesting. That's the nice thing about this, or the positive thing. It's things we haven't seen before, so that's always good, something different. But I'm not a huge fan of that. Playing a team 3 times in a row.
Larry, let's talk a little bit specifically about the Red Wings and the players that they've acquired and the roster that we think we're going to see out on the ice come puck drop, especially the defensemen. They've added guys like Mark Stahl, John Merrill, and hopefully we have Danny DeKeyser back and healthy after he's recovering from his back surgery last season. But when you look at the 3 guys I just said and the guys that are returning from last year, some of the young defensemen we have coming up, what are you expecting to see out of this defensive core? And do you think it will be an improvement from what we had last season?
Oh, definitely an improvement, Danielle. I expect a much more solid defense. the Wings with this group of guys are going to play less in their own zone just because these are quality defensemen, play the position well, move the puck well, get the puck over that blue line. Right there in itself will cut down scoring chances against. Yzerman identified that last year, and it was no surprise. I mean, the defense had, I guess you could say that about most areas of the team, definitely needed a big boost, and they've got it by adding these guys. Mark Stahl, I think, that was a great move by Steve, bringing a player in of that maturity, great leadership in the dressing room. He was an assistant captain with the Rangers. Boy, he's going to take charge in there. He's going to get that winning environment. It's got that feel that you carry with a team carries with itself, that level of confidence. He's going to show guys how to be a pro. He's also going to show guys how to win. So it's definitely, the defense is going to be much stronger. It's going to be give the team goaltending is going to have more confidence in themselves, because they know when a goaltender plays with a defense that's mishmash all over the place, not playing strong, their confidence gets hit too, because they're thinking, man, I'm going to see some unbelievable scoring chances against. Well, they're going to have much more faith in the defense, that the guy off the side of the net's going to be covered. It's going to give the goaltenders more confidence. So it's going to be positive. Forwards are going to get the puck more. So, hey, I was a defenseman, Daniela. To me, that's the most important position, and they've definitely upgraded it, and it's going to make the forwards and the goaltenders' jobs much easier.
Larry, in our final question, I'm beginning to think about those 3 days. I mean, why you're at it? Why don't you just tell the Red Wings, no matter where you finish in the standings, you're drafting 29th in the first round too. I mean, with the draft lottery giving them 3 days, that team just can't catch a break. What is it about the Red Wings in the NHL? But I'll get off my soapbox. What I really want to ask you, Larry, is this: and it's a two-part question. Now, part number one, which player needs to really come out of the gate fast, almost a rebound year? And what player in your gut do you see, taking the next step, becoming the player that we all think he can be?
Well, I think the easy part of the question is, what guys are going to have to step up, contribute more. And I think, obviously, Anthony Mantha, if he stays healthy, and he's shown in the last couple of years his ability, a natural goal scorer, finding a lot of different ways to score, whether it's a big shot or a big guy in front of the net. If he's healthy and his numbers continue to grow, I mean, that's one area right there. Robbie Fabry's a guy that is very interesting for me. Right there, look at Mantha. I mean, you don't get tired of seeing that. I mean, that's a guy, just sees the corner, picks it. Robbie Fabry's a guy that, he's got rewarded with a 2-year contract, comes to the Wings, really is a high impact guy. And the team, I think their success, the big area they've got to improve is secondary scoring. And Robbie Fabry is a guy that's going to be counted on to provide that. We're going to look, you got to assume you're going to look at Bertuzzi, Larkin, Mantha on that big line. Well, they need that second line. That's the area that's got to pick up. And I think Robbie Fabry's a guy that's shown that he's a legitimate, everyday player in the National Hockey League. He's a guy that, boy, if he really steps it up offensively and follows through, boy, that's problem solved in terms of depth scoring.
All right. That was awesome, Larry. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I was just making sure Art didn't have a follow-up. We have this little thing.
Yeah, I know. Art
I actually do have a follow-up, but I think the answer would be too long, so I'm not going to ask him. But the importance of a captain. How important is it for the Red Wings to name a captain?
Yeah, I think it's important. I think it's time, and I think it's no surprise that it's going to be Dylan Larkin. I think this is last year. Yzerman comes in, wants to evaluate things. Smart move on his part, but I think it's apparent to everybody. Dylan Larkin, he should be wearing the C on this team, and that day is going to come, and hopefully before this season. Unfortunately, it would have been fantastic to have the building, Little Caesars Arena, full of people when the announcement's made, or the first time he steps out on the ice as captain. That would have been fantastic. We're not going to have that luxury, but This is a guy that plays with a lot of heart, has a lot of skill. He's a guy that's not happy with the way things are now in terms of the wins and losses. A guy that's very competitive, so he's going to do a great job as captain. And Art, I think it's time has come to make it official. Put that C, sew it on, get it on there, and it's time. Let's go, captain.
It feels like at this point you'd just be delaying the obvious, Larry. That's how I feel about it. I really hope that it happens before this season. But thank you so much for taking the time to join us, Larry. It's always great to catch up with you. And next time you join us, hopefully the Red Wings will be on the ice.
Danielle, I sure hope so. It's a long time coming, man. It feels like forever since we've seen the winged wheel out on the ice, and I'm ready. I'm ready for this season.
We're all ready, Larry. Again, thank you so much. And a big thank you to Labatt Blue Light for presenting Downtown Hockey Town. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Now that Art has some new information about training camp and everything that's going on with the Red Wings, you guys won't want to miss his conversation with Ken Daniels for the headliner later in the show. But right now, we're going to get back into some Tigers baseball. It's time for Brush Street Beat, presented by our friends at McLaren Healthcare. And today's guest is Tigers pitcher Daniel Norris, joining us all the way from California today. Daniel, how are you? Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us.
Yeah, totally. I'm doing good, and I appreciate y'all having me on. Everything's good over here. Hope y'all are doing fine too.
So I hear you're quite the surfer now, Daniel. You've been spending your off season in California. How long have you been surfing? And you've got to tell me and be honest. Are you getting pretty good at it?
Yeah, I've been. I mean, I it's tough to say how good you are because there's a lot of really good surfers out here. But I've been surfing for about 10 years now. Pretty much every off season, ever since I got into pro ball, and yeah, I think I'm good enough to hold my own. But like I said, there's a lot of really good surfers out here, which is fun to watch too.
Daniel, when I think of Detroit Tigers, as far as guys that I would consider a Renaissance man, I consider you to be a true Renaissance man. I mean, you do everything, and I'm really curious. I know you had the Instagram show, the Drip. And then last week, the Tigers debuted a video of giving Christmas gifts. It was for a ticket offer. It was a promotion for a ticket offer that is no longer around. So watch the video. The offer doesn't stand. But you received an oven mitt from Tyler Alexander. And I have to say, and I'm just not saying this just to say it, I think acting is definitely in your future. What a performance. It was incredible. The look on your face when you received the oven mitt was, it brought tears to my eyes. I swear, it really did. It was tremendous. No, it was.
Whenever they published that, I rewatched it, and I was pretty disappointed with myself. I thought I could have done a better job, but I appreciate it. You're hyping me up pretty good. That was fun. I thought Buck did a really good job, and Tyler did a really good job. That turned out really well. Our media people they're dialed, so that was cool.
Do you use oven mitts a lot, or?
I mean, I guess, yeah. I don't really. I usually everything I cook's usually on the stovetop. I'm not good at preheating and all that stuff. I can make eggs and coffee, and that's about it. But
all right, so he's a man of many talents. We've got surfing, acting, cooking, and of course, baseball, Daniel. We are going to ask you some baseball questions today. The Tigers brought in a slew of new coaches, actually, starting with manager AJ Hinch. And of course, for you, one position coach that's going to be very important is the pitching coach, and Chris Fetter. Have you had conversations with these two guys yet? And are you excited to play for them?
Yeah, I talked to both of them, I'd say close to a month ago. And both conversations were lengthy and really detailed, which was just got me super excited. I mean, obviously when I saw that they were hiring both of them, I was really excited. I mean, I've played against AJ for years, when he was with the Astros, and I've always respected him as a manager, and so yeah, I'm super excited to play for him, and then really excited about Chris. I think that his knowledge of developing, and and especially with the young pitchers that we do have, I think he's going to be really great for them, but also for myself. Like I still got a lot of learning to do, and I'm really excited to work with him. And he's mapped out a lot of things for us to work on, and other guys on that. It's just going to be really, really fun and exciting when we all get together in spring and just kind of, get to the drawing board and figure some things out. I think it's going to be really special. And just speaking with some of my teammates, I think we're all on the same page, just very excited about all these new coaches that we've brought in. We're all really psyched on that.
Daniel, last season you were 3-1. Your ERA was 3.25. You had 28 Ks and 27 2/3 innings pitched, but it was a little bit different role for you. You were coming out of the bullpen. I want you to be a starter. I think you want to be a starter. How do you see starting, or are you starting to adapt to your role in the bullpen where, let's be honest, you were extremely effective?
Yeah, it's something that it kind of is what it is, I've always started. That's what I've done my whole life, and I love starting, and that routine is more predictable, obviously, just because of the rotation and whatnot. But I don't know. Like, obviously, I want to start, but being in the bullpen was kind of exciting for me last year, just because it did teach me a lot about who I am as a pitcher and a lot about my stuff and what I can rely on. And like, I think about a few times when I would come in with guys on base, if somebody like the starter came out and there's a guy on second or whatever, and that was pretty exhilarating, just coming in like, I don't want that guy to score, so you're just going to your weapons right away. Obviously, as a starter, you do the same, but it was a little bit different. So I think, if I do get the chance to start again, I'm going to be better for it, just because of what I learned last year. Having said that, regardless of my role, I'm just excited to go out there and compete and win. I think, I just really want to win, and I feel like as a team, we're really close. And with this new coaching staff, I think they're going to kind of propel us into a lot of victories.
Well, it sounds like the Seagulls there, too, are pretty excited about you starting as well.
I knew he was going to say something. I knew it. I should have predicted it.
Hey, man, that's cool. I mean, it's nature, you got to love it.
Yeah, totally.
Daniel, this is one of the first off seasons in a while where you've been completely healthy and can focus on preparation for next season. How good does that feel, and how are you preparing for spring training, which really is just around the corner?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm definitely not taking it for granted. Going into an off season, not rehabbing something, and being able to really focus on certain things and getting stronger. And the place that I train out here, Peak Performance Project, I've been out here for the last 4 years now, 4 off seasons. And even our trainers out here, they've spoke volumes to just where my body's at compared to the past few off seasons where I was rehabbing and stuff. Just in my full body assessments, they have just echoed that I'm in a way better position, just as far as health wise and body wise and strength wise. So, you hear this a lot, but I feel like I haven't been this strong in a while. So I'm chomping at the bit to get back down to Florida and ready to rock.
Daniel, you are really, truly, a man of the people. And I'm kind of curious. This was such an odd season where there weren't fans in the stands. I guess we're hoping, I know you're in California, they're under lockdown, I guess, again right now. So, when you come back to Detroit, are you looking forward to maybe having people in the stands? Did it affect you? Did you miss it, or were you able to channel that out, not having people there cheering you on?
I think a lot. I think every athlete has the ability to kind of channel in and really focus on the game and the task at hand in that moment. So as far as game speed and everything. Once you're in between the lines, it's kind of game on. But you're right. I mean, going to the field and BP and all that stuff, I mean, we missed the fans so much, and it felt really, really weird the whole year. You never really got used to it, So I think that we're all just kind of hoping and praying that we can have, the city of Detroit in the stadium when we get back out there, because it was weird, and we missed that energy and the feel, and it's just it's not. I mean, it is baseball, but it's really not. It's just different. It's a different game without the fans, and so we miss that a lot, and I think that hopefully as a country and as a world we can sort of get to a point in this pandemic where we can get back to some normalcy and have our sports back.
And of course, everything that's happening in the world right now it's a bummer. Everybody's suffering in their own way or trying to get through this in their own way. But one thing as Tigers fans that was specifically a bummer that we couldn't be in the stands this year was how exciting this team is. You guys are really on the up and coming. You talked about some of the young pitchers that you're with, including Casey Mize and Tarek Skubal. So how excited are you for the future of the Detroit Tigers?
Yeah, I'm super excited. And, you're spot on. I mean, we all know that it's been a rough few years, in the win and loss column. But I really think even going back to 2019, we've started playing a lot better baseball, and we're not collectively making the mistakes that we were, in the other years. And I think that winning feeling and that like feeling of going to the field and knowing that we can really do damage is right around the corner. And I think that, like I said, I mean, last year that we were hot for a while and we were all super excited and we were kind of in it, so I think that, with the addition of AJ and Chris and all the other coaches that we hired, I really think we can surprise some people this year and really be in the mix for where we want to be.
Daniel, I need to ask you this. I mean, do you still have the original Shaggy, or are you on Shaggy 2? Are you tooling around Cali in that legendary van?
Of course, I still have Shaggy. It's back in Tennessee, my parents' home. I still drive it when I'm home. Out here, I've got a 1973 Ford Econoline that I sort of gutted. It's an old motorcycle cool. Shop van, and yeah, I gutted it out and put some like a bed frame and storage and wood flooring and all that. So yeah, I don't know. I like old cars, and so I've got a couple vans. Yeah. I actually just picked up a new rig yesterday. I was surfing at this spot a little bit north, and I saw this old 1988 Volvo for sale, and I called the guy and I said, "Hey, I saw the rig. What are you asking for it?" And he was like, "Oh, like $2,000." And I was like, "Sold. We'll make it happen." And so I got another little beach mobber that I can stuff some boards in there. And so yeah, I just like old stuff.
World's cool. Most interesting man, I swear.
Really? That's why he's a Renaissance man.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much again for taking the time to join us today. It was really great catching up with you. And I can tell you this, we are very much looking forward to next Tigers season.
Yeah, likewise. I can't wait.
Thanks again, Daniel. And of course, a big thank you to McLaren Healthcare for presenting Brush Street Beat right here on the Word on Woodward. Another thank you to Daniel Norris for joining us. And I swear, every time we chat with him, he makes me feel like I need to pick up a new hobby. So if you guys have any suggestions for me, let me know. And right now, I'm going to toss it over to Art Regner, who is joined by a very special guest for our headliner.
That's right, Danielle. And this time, the headliner presented by Miller Lite. Let's bring in Tiger broadcaster, telecaster, whatever the proper term is for Fox Sports Detroit, the voice, the television voice of your very own Detroit Red Wings, Ken Daniels. Ken, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate your time today.
You scared me for a minute, Art. You said Tiger broadcaster.
Oh, did I? Red Wings, yeah. Well, you know what? You can do baseball.
I was worried. It's been a while.
I would say that the mustachioed Ken Daniels that I originally know from the CBC probably could have called baseball as well.
Well, I hosted baseball in the World Championship years of the Blue Jays in the early 90s when CBC television had baseball. So I hosted the Blue Jays parade back then, the days of, the Steves and the Keys and the Morris and, Alomar and Carter and all those boys. Used to do baseball.
And you did have the mustache back then too, I hope.
Yeah, well, don't say hope. I was trying to look like Tom Selleck. It didn't go well. I think I shaved it. I remember the day I shaved it because it was 1995, and I was working the Indy races for CBC Television in Toronto and Vancouver. So I covered Indy racing for a number of years, and it was I have those fire suits in the pits, and it was so hot one day, and I was driving home back then without air conditioning in a Honda Prelude. And I was so hot, and I said, screw this. And I went inside the house and I shaved. And my wife, when I walked outside, she had never seen me without a mustache before because I'd had one since the 80s. And I walked outside, I had shaved it, and she screeched, but it's never been back since, except during the lockout and recently with COVID. But, I think it was better. It was more torts when you could have a little goatee with it. It was a little better.
Yeah, I have to admit, I haven't seen you clean shaven in months, and I did a double take. Maybe that's why I said Tigers instead of Red Wings. I go, wait a second, is this Dan Dickerson or somebody? Who is this guy? But anyway, we should probably get into hockey because I love you in a mustache. I mean, that's the Ken Daniels that I remember. That Sunday night CBC Sports Report, 15 minutes. I loved watching it. I watched it every Sunday. You were outstanding in it. Outstanding.
Thank you. Thanks, Art. But I'm trying to forget those days. I would use a term, but I won't. Those mustache days are long.
Well, I was going to say, I've always said this. I've always told you this. I've known you longer than you've known me simply from watching you on the CBC. So great work. Well, we had some breaking news here, Ken. It does appear if everything goes according to plan or what we've heard about is that the Red Wings are going to get 3 extra days of training camp. I know they wanted 2 weeks in the beginning. Then it was honed down to maybe a week and then 5 days. Well, the league's given Detroit 3 extra days, supposedly. That's what's being reported by Darren Dreger, and that it's going to start training camp for the Red Wings on December 31st. I don't know. I mean, do you think that 3 days is enough? Do you look at it? That would mean that everybody else would start on the 3rd, and then the season would start on the 13th. So what we all figured it'd be like a 10-day training camp. But, your thoughts on maybe having hockey here at old Little Caesars Arena on the 31st of December?
Well, first of all, I can't wait. I don't know who's going to be able to get in to actually watch them practice. And I know they're skating and the guys are in great shape. And yes, they've been off a long time since March for sure. But those teams who are also out even into the play-in rounds for the playoffs have been off for some time too. And they've all been skating. So I don't think whether it's 3 days or 5 days is going to make a difference. All I know is when they finally get around to playing, and we hope it's the 13th, and that's still to be decided, Board of Governors with a vote probably late next week, and there's still so much to be decided in terms of protocol and so many other things, and what's the roster size going to be, et cetera, that we can get into. All I know is when they start playing, and if you're a gambler, and there's going to be gambling in the National Hockey League down the road, that's going to be a big part of raising revenue for the league. I'm taking the over in all the games because without preseason games, I can't wait. And it's going to be so much fun to see all the scoring that's going to take place. I think the goalies will be ready, but there's going to be some strange things happening in the first few weeks of the season.
Well, what's pretty funny, I'm thinking in my mind, they had Thomas Greiss, a real upgrade in goal, and then Bernier, if he can duplicate, from December 2019 on, his numbers were right up there with the tops in the league as far as goaltending. But you're right. I mean, if this is all run and gun hockey, as the Oilers days in their heyday, people are going to say, well, the goaltender, that's supposed to be good. What the heck's going on? But you're absolutely right. This is going to be, and I kind of like it too, it's going to be kind of a free-for-all the first couple of weeks, I would imagine.
Oh, for sure it will be. It's going to be interesting to see whether it's an extra 3 days or 4 days for the teams that didn't make the playoffs. I don't really know if that matters that much in the end. The guys are going to be raring to go. The veteran guys only play so many preseason games anyway, so I don't think they're going to miss it. And I can't remember if, in fact, the 94-95 season, when we started in January, missed the early part, and it was a 48-game season, I don't know if there were preseason games then either. So maybe, to my point, maybe later on in training camp, you get more intense in scrimmages and what you're doing and get some hitting involved. But I don't know whether they're going to be no hitters early on in the regular season. Somebody's going to hit. They're going to get riled up. I think the first week or so might be a feeling out process. And we saw that in the round robin into the playoffs, right? There wasn't a lot to play for. I'll tell you what, if it's a 56-game season, there's going to be a lot to play for when you're only playing teams within your own division. We might get sick of those teams after a while, but when we used to talk about 3-point games and maybe we didn't like 3-point games and being distributed, every game, every team is playing, all within the division, become 4-point games. They're all going to be huge games. And after you've played that team for the 6th and 7th time, there's going to be some real good rivalries built up. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's for a one-off. I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be great.
Well, I think, on the heels of what was really a successful Stanley Cup tournament, I couldn't agree more with you. The divisions supposedly are out. I know that Pierre LeBrun, this is what he says. Your thoughts on it? Chicago, Detroit, Columbus, Nashville, Florida, Tampa Bay, Carolina, and Minnesota. I guess I'd like to see St. Louis in there and put Minnesota in the West. But overall, I kind of like this division because, as we've talked about, the way this is going to break out, the Red Wings are going to play the other 7 teams in their division 8 times. So there's going to be a lot of that Detroit-Chicago rivalry is really going to be ignited this upcoming season.
Well, when you look at Columbus there, and you're going up against Jones and Werenski more, and then you're going up against Taves and Kane, and you're going, for me, if you've got the Red Wings team, which is in its growing stages, obviously, in the midst of this rebuild, but you get Larkin going up against Taves and Kane more, and up against tougher D, and in Nashville's defense more. I think it's going to be good, and it's going to be the grind, and you're going to learn how to grind against these guys, and then you throw in Tampa Bay, right, and Hedman and Sergachev and what you're going up against, and Stamkos and those guys. So I think as a learning process in a 56-game season, when you're go, I think it's great for a young Red Wing team to learn and go up against these guys night after night to see what you're up against. When you showed those divisions, the one that I think is maybe the best division is you got Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and the Rangers, the Islanders, Washington, Boston, Buffalo, and New Jersey. I don't know if Boston's going to make the playoffs. When you've got, Marchand out right now and Pasternak, and they were 4 or 5 months out with injuries. You no longer have Torrey Krug. Who's missing? Washington. Are they going to miss? Holtby's gone. They're going with the young goalie. Is Eichel going to miss again out of that division? You got Pittsburgh, Philly, Rangers, Islanders. Who's missing there? It's going to be fascinating to watch to see which of the 4 teams get in night after night. And you take that division to division. I think it's going to be great. And to me, I look at a team like Boston, which is a perennial Cup favorite. They could miss. They could miss the playoffs in 56 games. I think it's a fair amount of games if they can get that in. It's not 48, 56. Okay, it's not 70 or so, but you can establish what you got going there. So I think all the divisions is going to be very interesting to see. And that's why I think every game is so important with so much on the line. And there's going to be great animosity built up. And the way the travel is going to be, you're going back to back or 3 and 4. A lot of costs got to be factored in, Art, and where you're traveling to. And you're not going to just go one-offs. You're going to want to get 2 out of the way. You're going to have to condense it a little bit. You're going to have to leave room if COVID spikes again. So there's still so much to be decided. But I think it's going to be great in the end when they figure it all out.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think the teams in the Canadian division and in that Eastern Conference, when you look at how the Central Division is, and especially the Western Division, where 3 non-playoff teams, and they play within the first 2 rounds within division, there's going to be some teams with some nice point totals that might not even make the playoffs, and Boston could be one of them. That is a great point because you're right. That East is stacked, and then all the Canadian teams together, where rivalries abound. I mean, that's going to be a lot of real good hockey. And as you said, I couldn't agree with you more. I'd really like to spend more time on that and get into roster size, but I want to ask you a little bit about honing in on the Red Wings here. I know that we've talked about it. We did a couple of shows, a pre-draft show and a post-draft show for Fox Sports Detroit. But when you look at the Red Wings season, you see the transactions that they've made. How would you assess Steve Yzerman's offseason?
I think it's terrific for what he did on short-term deals, and it gives them depth. And we're going to need some depth in a 56-game season. And again, to my point earlier, you got to figure out what's going to happen with the taxi squad. American Hockey League guys, how many allowed to handle? There were some teams with the salary cap part who wouldn't get to 23 players because they'd have to handle 20. But how do you do that? Are they on AHL salaries in the NHL? Are they on AHL, but they get NHL per diem? All that to be figured out. But for what Steve did in the additions that he made and giving more depth, and we'll see if Fabry winds up in the middle or Nemesnikov, and right there, it moves down Filppula if you want. It moves out Nielsen for that. And the defense is so much stronger now. I really like, and Art, you and I talked about it before it happened, that we really like Troy Stetcher. Knowing Vancouver with cap problems, he'd be available. Thomas Greiss is great assurance and could be the number one guy, in fact, and pushing Bernier. Bobby Ryan on a one-year deal has so much to prove just to himself and the want and the desire, and he wanted to be here. I think that's so important when you have players who want to be here and play. And now with what you've got in depth down the lineup, whether it be Fabry or Zadina, who can come back along with Hronek, and yes, the others have to stay over in Sweden, many until their season is complete. It does free up the top line if in fact they want to keep that top line together all year, and things happen with injuries, etc. But with Larkin and Bertuzzi and Mantha, it frees them up a little bit and gives you different choices on the power play too. So I think this is a young group that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And going forward, you've got a lot of room with the cap to make more room. And for what Steve added during the offseason, all those guys on short deals could be moved at the trade deadline whenever that deadline is going to be, and significant dates still have to be worked out with the Players Association and the league and through the Board of Governors, etc. But he's got a lot of wiggle room, and that's so important in what will be a flat cap for a number of years now. And I'm still waiting, as you and I talk, Art, we're still waiting, aren't the both of us, for a Tampa Red Wing deal somewhere, just to be a nice guy to help out Brisebois?
Well, right. You know, I think eventually if he makes another deal, but I don't think there's an urgency in Steve's mind that he has to do something. I think he's want to see what he has on the ice first and see, perhaps, a Rasmussen surprises. I'm stuck on Michael today for some reason, comes back and boy, he's the third line center or whatever. I mean, obviously Steve said it'd be great if we could catch a break if a guy really came in here. I want to ask you, and I know we're running out of time here, but you talked about rosters. I think it's The Athletic that reported that it looks like they're going to expand the rosters from 23 to 26 and a 4-man taxi squad, which means that there's going to be 30 guys that will pretty much be available because of COVID restrictions. I've been saying 30 guys the whole time, even though 4 of them are going to be a taxi squad. I think that makes the most sense to me, Ken. I know you've talked about the horror show financially that this could be for teams, but they're going to have to expand their rosters because not so much of injuries or whatever the history of the AHL season is. They're going to have to expand it just because of COVID-19. There's probably going to be positive tests, especially if they're not in a bubble.
For sure. Oh, I'm sure there will be. And if they can contain it, that's fine. And I think that's why when the schedule comes out, and it's going to be interesting to see how they do the schedule, do they do the first part? Because I would think come playoff time, and who knows, in a short season, anything can happen. I would think come playoff time, there will likely be fans in the building or toward the end of the season. Again, there's so much of the unknown. It's not what the National Hockey League is doing. It's what the world is doing, and how many want the vaccine, how many can get the vaccine. So we're going to have to all play that by ear. In the end, yes, the agreement and players and taxi squad and what they make, everyone's going to take a hit right now. The players are, the owners are. That's why they're trying to work this out. And, whether you get even in this and the players and it's a 50-50 business, it may take 5 or 6 years, Art, until this plays out. But what generally happens with players in an agreement like this, the players who are in now, those who wind up paying for it down the road in the agreement and the paybacks, are going to be the Mo Siders of the world, the Joe Valenos of the world. In 4 and 5 and 6 years down the road, that's when it comes back and they play, because that's what happens. A veteran guy said, well, you know what? We paid when we were young, and this is how the agreement's going to happen. We're in now, and hopefully at some point, everybody's going to be made whole when the business gets back to normal. It's going to take a few years, but I think what they got planned right now is wonderful, and I can't wait to get back at it and get back on the air. And I think guys are just itching to play, and fans are itching for the game, and I think it's going to be wonderful to watch. And this team, this Red Wing team, is going to be exciting to watch. They're going to be competitive.
Well, I agree with you. And Ken, real quickly, I have to ask you, I know the Scotty Bowman roast, the virtual roast for the Jamie Daniels Foundation, was very successful. Anything coming up? How can fans get involved? You know, this time of year, regardless of a pandemic or not, people are usually pretty generous.
Yes, and we did Giving Tuesday as well. And on our website, if you go to jamiedanielsfoundation.org, we still have sweatshirts, T-shirts available. We're trying to end the stigma surrounding mental health and substance use disorders. So jamiedanielsfoundation.org, you can donate there. We are planning another roast. We just don't know whether it'll be live next August at Motor City Casino, where we do another virtual event. And we're still trying to nail down, although we got some time, whom in fact we are roasting. But for Mickey and Scotty, and 2 wonderful events, of which in total we raised well over $500,000 from those 2 events. So we're very proud of that. Right. We got a long way to go. We're on the right path to building long-term safe recovery housing in Jamie's memory. So we're getting that done and helping out collegiate programs and recovery programs and peer recovery coaches. So anything people can do to donate, even if it's $5, it all helps.
Well, that's great, Ken. Obviously, I know it's near and dear to your heart. It also is to me, and that is just great. And I want to thank you for being here on The Headliner. It is the television voice of the Detroit Red Wings. Occasionally moonlights as a baseball announcer, I guess. But Ken, it's always a pleasure. Happy holidays to you and your family. Look forward to seeing you down at the rink very, very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Same to you and yours.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of The Headliner, presented by Miller Lite. It is the original light beer. It's only 96 calories. It tastes delicious, and it's available for delivery. Carly, back to you.
Thank you, Art. All right, it's just the 2 of us. It's time to get into Let's Socialize. I have a few questions for you that I'm excited to ask, so let's get right into it. By the way, loved the Ken Daniels interview, as always. Stand-up guy. That was awesome. All right, so first question we have for you, Art. This is something that when you and Daniela interviewed Daniel Norris came about from that. What do you think is Daniel Norris's coolest talent? All right, so we have acting, we have baseball, we have photography, we have surfing. Am I missing anything?
Well, let's say pitching, number 1. He's left-handed. He's coming on. I think we all hope it's pitching, and I think Daniel Norris hopes that it's pitching. As great as an actor as he is, I really think it has to be being the ability to grow a beard. I don't know if he's up to Jason Beck level, who grows a full beard in about 6 hours, but I would say that beard growing. I mean, look at Norris's beard was pretty freaking impressive. When you look at that thing that we just had. I mean, he was definitely looked like, he's from Tennessee, kind of looked like, he could have been one of the Clampetts or something, but I would say that, but Daniel Norris, and why I called him a Renaissance man, in all seriousness, he is the type of individual that if he sticks his mind to something and he wants to do it, he does it. And and he gets good at it, and I love this question. He wants to start, and it was really insightful when he said I had really long talks with AJ Hinch and Chris Fetter. So he said I want to start, but he kind of liked the bullpen. So you can see that. I don't know what AJ Hinch and Chris Fetter told him, but the seeds were kind of set where he knows what his role is going to be, and he's cool with it. Because that's who he is. I mean, I like Daniel Norris. Daniel Norris. I want to hang out in Shaggy with the guy. In his van Shaggy that I guess is at his parents' house in Tennessee. I mean, he would just be a cool dude just because of the his personality. So I would say that really, I think pitching is probably his best talent, but I think he is a man. That's why he's a Renaissance man. He is a man of many tastes and talents. He definitely an eclectic personality, and I don't know what's going to happen at the trade deadline because he's going to, a left-handed pitcher, like 27 years old. I mean, starting to come in his prime. They always say left-handers come a little later, but I would say that Daniel Norris, he's one of those guys that it's so cool to have a guy like Daniel Norris wearing that Old English D.
Aw, that's very sweet. I hope he's listening. Maybe we can get you guys to hang out together soon.
I mean, he's surfing right now. He's catching waves in California. Look, didn't you think during that? I mean, we kept hearing seagulls in the background. I am sure he's kind of like Dr. Doolittle or something. He probably talks to the animals as well. That's a hidden talent that we don't even know. I think whenever Daniel Norris walks, he's surrounded by dogs and cats, and birds are flying overhead. And he's probably carrying on conversations with those guys too.
Maybe we'll have to ask him next time he's on the show. All right, second question out of 3. We have a good one with the news we just found out. Do you think the projected start dates are unfair to the Detroit Red Wings? So I'm assuming they're talking about the Red Wings December 31st start date compared to everyone else a few days later.
I don't know. I mean, I guess in the beginning when there was a greater unknown, or these teams that all qualify for the playoffs had been on the ice. But as each day gets further and further, everybody's kind of been off the ice. And I guess I look at it this way. Originally, they wanted 2 weeks. Then they said a week. Right. Then they said 5 days, and they end up getting 3. We just heard from Ken Daniels say that, hey, maybe 3 days. I mean, the Red Wings have been working out. We know that. It's been documented. Right. It's been written about. I know from talking to Giovanni Smith for his blog, Powering Forward, which he does on our website. He because of his visa, he's been able to go back and forth. He works out in Canada, then he comes over to the United States. The Red Wings have, and there's a lot of NHL players that live in the greater metropolitan Detroit area. I can think of like Cam Fowler, Zach Werenski. I mean, those guys are all working out. They all work out together, And so I guess based on that, I would have liked to see more than 3 days. The Red Wings traditionally play on New Year's Eve night if they're not playing an outdoor game the next day. So, having Red Wing hockey on New Year's is cool. I think that would be great if they start training camp that day. Maybe a special edition of the Word on Woodward. You never know. But I would think that that's good. I think that's cool. Actually, well, no, I guess it would be a Wednesday, the 31st, right? Or no, maybe it would be Thursday.
Friday or Thursday.
Friday's the 1st, right? Or maybe I don't know. I should look at the calendar.
I know.
Anyway, I'm thinking out loud. You know what? I don't think it's that bad. It'll be interesting to see what the players have. You can never have enough time. You're not playing. Everybody's in the same boat. I would have liked to have seen to give them at least a week, at least 5 days, if not 7, just because the Red Wings, it's a brand new team in a way. Steve's brought in a lot of guys. Blashill's going to have to do a lot of assessment. Steve's going to have to do a lot of assessment. Are they going to make a move? How do the guys that have been playing in Europe and come over, how do they look? But I guess maybe a 3 extra day window, maybe they can make those decisions or get a pretty good idea of what they have. But I would have liked to seen it a little bit longer.
I agree with you there. I really do. It's something that John Ogrodnik and I were talking about earlier, and just how it's not enough time to get
great
back
interview. Great interview with Johnny O. I love Johnny O, man. One of the best one-timers I've ever seen. Mickey. I mean, there were a lot of good ones back then, but Johnny O, baby, woo, he could fire that puck.
He's a funny guy too. All right. Final question we have. We only have a few minutes left of the show, and this is the question I had to ask you. Are you going to get your cats a new castle for Christmas?
Well, you know what? I was actually thinking about that because this one is obviously on its last legs. At one time all rescues, there were 7 cats. Now we're down to 3. And this thing, although I don't know, this way. My man Vinny. I told my man Vinny I'd give him a little bit of screen time today.
There we go. Vinny.
Yeah. And then I'm going to decorate the place. I definitely am thinking about getting a new cat castle. This one, as I said, I mean, it served its purpose, but I will say one thing, and I'm not cheap by nature, or even frugal. I'm or a spendthrift or anything. I mean, I just blow through wads of cash constantly. I mean, I have no self-control. If I start, oh yeah, I mean, you should see, I mean, yeah, I've got collections of things I look at now, why in the hell did I buy 18 of them? Or if I like an artist, I was known, if I liked an artist, somebody I just heard, and they had 5 albums out, instead of buying the album or the CD or whatever that I heard of the song I like, I buy all 5 albums at once. That's weird. That is definitely weird.
You go 100% into whatever you love.
Yeah, very, very. Juliana Hatfield. I obviously I love her. But with that said, I want to say that they're expensive. Have you ever gone out and checked a cat castle? You look at and all it is it's remnants from carpeting, and somebody builds it. I'll look at it. Oh, well, this is pretty cool, and I'll look at it. It's $400. It's what the hell? I mean, $400? I mean, okay, granted, I flunked shop in junior high school. I actually got an E- in metal shop. You'll appreciate it since you're coming off your thumb injury. I'm all thumbs when it comes to being mechanical or anything. I couldn't build one. I would like to, because they should be easy, but there's no way. But boy, I'm going to have to lay down a healthy buck to get the kind of cat castle that Emilio, Buddy, and Reba deserve.
And they deserve the most amazing cat castle, Schloss Neuschwanstein of felines, if you will. So maybe we can start a GoFundMe for a new cat castle for Art. But that's all I have for you.
Okay. Thank you, Carly. I guess not only do I appreciate it, but Emilio appreciates it, Buddy appreciates it, and of course, Crazy Reba really appreciates it.
Reba, I'll never get over those names. Amazing cats. Can't wait to meet them someday. All right, well, Art, thank you. That's all we have for Let's Socialize. I also want to give a thank you to AAA with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers. Fighting to defeat COVID-19, you protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. Fun show today. Miss Danielle at the end there. It's always fun when the three of us can get together. But if you missed anything in the show, you can catch up watching the interviews on the WOW YouTube channel, or listen to the show as a podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. We'll talk all about all this weekend's news, as we know there should be some news coming out of the hockey world. We'll talk about that and much more next week on The Word on Woodward, coming to you on Tuesday at noon on Detroit Tigers and DetroitRedWings.com, YouTube, and Facebook. Until then, you guys, enjoy your evening and enjoy the weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday.